So welcome everyone to episode 5 of the Minsan Football Show presented by Upstream Sports TV. We've got a mix-up here today and I'm going to be your host for today. My name is Natasha Alquirosa-Dato, your host, and welcome back, of course, to the Minsan Football Show. Safe to say we will have the Minsan Football Show kapag mayroong game sa weekend. So next week is a FIFA break, so babalik ulit tayo sa pagiging minsan. So of course, joining me today we have Diego Cordero as well as Jing Hamlang. We're also going to have exciting guests and segments for today's event. We'll have a segment by PFL Bible and we'll also have Paul Tolentino later on for this show. But before all that, we want to just thank our drinks partner, Thirst. Kick off with savings this football season. Use code PFL 2025 on the Thirst app for special discounts. Thirst is the Philippines' only beverage marketplace, so download the Thirst app today wherever you get your apps. So let's open the show with our question of the day. As a fan, how do you transfer your excitement of football to your non-football or non-sports friends? So we're inviting all the viewers, of course, to type out your answers down below. And as we give you time to join us in this conversation, I'm gonna send it on over first to Diego to answer on the question for us. How are you, Diego?
I'm good. Happy to be back. Happy that we're in the busy part of the season and in the football calendar. For this question, how do you transfer your excitement of football to your non-football friends? I have done this many times successfully. Anyway, for those of you who are wondering, I study in a school right beside the Rizal Memorial Stadium. So it's very easy for me to convince my friends to just walk 5 minutes and watch the games in Rizal. So I've done this before, whether it's PFL or another competition. So there's UAAP or even sometimes there's national team games in Rizal. I convinced them because it's so near. And that's also what I like about Rizal Memorial Stadium. It's so accessible. And because of that accessibility, I've convinced so many friends who are not sporty people to watch games because it's right there. Rizal Memorial Stadium is right there. So is the MOA Stadium. I've done this also for other leagues. I've told my friends, hey, let's go to MOA, let's hang out, and later in the day, let's watch games there. So yeah, I just bring my friends, and I think it's a good way also to get people into football, to just convince their friends, and they get surprised actually by how entertaining the sport is because these aren't sporty people. So yeah, that's my answer for that question.
That's a solid one actually. I must say, that's pretty solid thing to do and madali lang eh.
Yeah.
Lapit lang ng Lasal sa Rizal. How about for you, Jing?
I wish I was better at this, so then I wouldn't be watching all of these games late in the evening by myself, But for Philippine football, I've coerced mostly family and friends to come watch. The easiest is the national team games because you're supporting your country and there's a festival atmosphere to games recently, so it's a lot easier to invite. But there's also continental games that I've had friends and family come for. Mostly to support me and the efforts that we've been putting into the league, the club. So I feel like it's easy also to get people to come if there is some sort of entertainment separate from the game, and then they are pleasantly surprised by how much fun and emotional a football game can be. Booze helps.
Agreed.
I think that speaks more about my crowd and my friends. But if I can coerce them with something to drink, a beverage, it really does help. And they come for that, and they stay and enjoy the match. Yeah.
Big shout to the booze aspect. I don't know what it is, but booze and football really just go hand in hand. And for myself, as we turn this around, so I also have a pretty specific answer. I have two ways that I coerce my friends or transfer my excitement to football to my non-football or non-sporty friends. One is as a mom. So since I'm a mom, I coerce, of course, my friends who are also moms, and I turn them into soccer moms. I tell them, football is always such a good sport to start young. And so because their kids become invested in the game, now they are very invested in the game. The second way that I try to pull in more people is, so when dates plays for the national team, they usually get free tickets. And so I always put it in my friend groups. Hey guys, I have a couple of free tickets for the national team. Who wants to come watch?
Right.
And so when you get a couple of free tickets, the more people are willing to go to the games.
Yes.
And the third is also if your children become mascots in the games. For some reason, moms or parents, they love it that their kids get to walk alongside the players. So that's another way that we somehow get to invite more people to enter the community of football. So we also want to know your answers to these questions. So for Ed Ball from PH Transfers, I just yap, so my friends eventually look into it. And for Calum, I think I annoy people to the extent they watch to shut me up and then they realize how exciting it can be. Agree to that. So JBBJ says, yung mga outing ng pamilya and friends ko outside the country, coincidentally, my national team game. Lol. So do we have more? Okay. So from El Carabao Sislista? Ciclista. Okay. Sorry for butchering this. So 100% excited sa mga laro, pero mas exciting kasi ang kaya Iloilo, pati pamilya ko.
Oh, nice.
So keep sending us your comments and how you also help transfer your love for football to your other non-football, non-sporty friends. And of course, we'll read them out later as well. Now, let's talk about the week we just had last weekend. And of course, we also wanted to let everyone know that all highlight videos and videos on demand are available at youtube.com/wearpfl. And also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Come on, guys. We know you love this show, so show us some love back. Hit the subscribe button. And let's, of course, talk about the recent games. Let's start with that first match. It was Don Bosco Garelli versus Maharlika. Maharlika with a win 1-0. The tightest of wins. If I'm not mistaken, Jing, you covered that one?
Yes. I called it alongside Vinny, and yeah, it was a big question mark in that game to see how Don Bosco Garelli would fare against Maharlika, and similarly so for Maharlika, a team that's trying to break into the top 6. How do you deal with a side that on paper you should be able to beat? And what we saw was that Maharlika is a far improved side from what they previously were. However, they weren't able to completely blow Don Bosco Garelli off the pitch, which shows also that Don Bosco Garelli have improved quite dramatically as well. Although, it was so much fun to see that, these teams that perhaps historically were really struggled, right? And sometimes the entertainment value of these matches weren't exactly, box office, right? But calling this match, I enjoyed it. I really did. I could see the method to their play. I could see what they were going for, and there was quality out there on the pitch as well. So, Maharlika eking out this win, I think it sends that message that they are pushing and making their way in the right direction. And for Don Bosco Garelli, I think they could take a little bit of confidence from this, because their first outing was a beatdown in a way to Tuloy. And this shows that they can really compete with a side that's pushing into the top 6. And that should allow them a little bit more of a feeling that, yeah, we belong here. It's not quite clicking yet. We haven't scored a goal yet, but we belong in this caliber of competition. So good match overall, and I think a deserved win for Maharlika.
And I love how close and tight-knit that match was. And it wasn't also just one-sided.
Yep.
You could see Garelli, especially later on in that match, they did get those chances on goal.
Oh, there was a touch of controversy as well, wasn't there? Quad vision replay showing us, just how tight that game could be, how different that game could have been if there was a call for a penalty. Definitely a ball struck the hand inside the box. So, fine margins. It could have been a very different story.
Do you have any players that stood out to you specifically in this matchup?
I think what I'm enjoying from seeing Maharlika play is that I'm seeing a lot of the veterans who are establishing themselves in this side and getting more minutes, being leaders. The Michael Menzies, the Ibarles. I'm seeing how they cope with their new roles and how they're making this new chapter a beneficial one into their careers. So I really enjoyed watching the progress.
All right. So as we talked about that first match, we all know Saturday was a triple header. And so a lot of football to be talked about. The second game on that day was the Philippine Army FC taking on the Aguilas UMAC FC. Aguilas UMAC getting their first win this season. A big 5-0 statement. Diego, you covered that game. Give us your thoughts on it.
So these were two teams that were the bottom two. They were winless and scoreless, both of them. And then I was a bit surprised actually before the game started to see that Aguilas played with a very changed 11. So I thought that on paper it was going to be an even game. Again, two teams on not the best form. It could have gone either way, but Aguilas UMAC, they just stepped on the gas and didn't stop for the whole game. So they got a 2-0 lead right away in the first half, and then in the second half they just blowed their opponents away. For Philippine Army, a bit concerning that they're still unable to score a goal and get any points this season. In the end of the day, what they'll have to say to themselves is that it's still early in the season. We can still pick ourselves up, although their next game is not kind to them at all. But the winners of this game, Aguilas UMAC FC, they're going to be very happy with this. Finally, they got running in the table this season. They're finally not on 0 points and not on 0 goals. Coach Jorg actually wasn't there on the sidelines, but I imagine he would be very happy with his team's performance that day.
And of course, Ibrahim Adamu getting a hat trick. And I'd say the best celebration we've seen so far in the PFL. So we'll most probably get to play that for you next time, or maybe later on in this show. We also had the third game for the triple header Saturday. It was Manila Digger taking on One Taguig FC. So a clash of the two, I'd say, giants in the PFL. Manila Digger getting that 1-0 victory over One Taguig. Jing, what can you say about that matchup? You covered that game as well.
Yeah, Diego and I had the pleasure of calling this one. I think there was a lot of hype heading into it, and rightly so. Two teams in very good form, going head to head, and I think the expectation that it was going to be a really tight and competitive match. And I think the biggest surprise was that despite what you see on the scoreline as a slim margin, it was actually largely Manila Digger having their way. And that was a shock to us, to a lot of people, that they had such control over that match and could have very easily been ahead by more. I think it was a very, very impressive performance because Manila Digger, they've been hot and cold this season. They've been undefeated, right? But we weren't so sure what we would get from them in their performances. But in this one, it was assured, it was methodical, it was professional from them against a One Taguig side that took a really long time to settle and to find their bearings. And in the end, they just couldn't solve the riddle that Manila Digger was presenting. So a very, very impressive performance from Cisse, who scored a great goal, Guy, who was just a workhorse in attack, and then you had Shermar Filonco that was very, very good, and the wing players that they had, Yoshioka as well as Schaffner and Ziggy Taninko on his debut being thrown into the fire, did it very, very well. Very impressed by Manila Digger, and this version of them is very scary. They look like title contenders.
That's true. It's good that they were able to pick themselves up to give us that performance that we expect also from Manila Digger. And Cisse's goal, another technical masterclass.
Quality.
You know, he can really just create different ways to score, and it's always such a joy to watch his technical ability shine. It really puts it top.
Could I just add one more thing? I forgot to shine a light on the young goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Playing in a huge, huge game as a young man and just lights out. Played incredible in that game. Sorry, I just wanted to give him his flowers. Go ahead.
Of course, do you have anything to add as well, Diego, for that game?
Really, really impressive from Manila Digger. I think the scoreline actually flatters One Taguig a little bit. So many chances, and I actually think that the goalkeeper of One Taguig, si Kupic, he made so many saves. And I think that's the only reason why Manila Digger didn't come out of this game with a 2-0, 3-0 win, because honestly, that's what they deserved that day.
So all clean sheets on Saturday. We go head on over to our Sunday doubleheader. It started off with the Visayas Clasico. It was Kaya FC Iloilo versus Cebu, and Kaya took that one 3-0. Massive result for Kaya against Cebu. Diego, what were your thoughts on that matchup?
Well, it was a blowout also. The goals, all of them were really fun to watch. The first one from Melise, the free kick, I believe you covered that game.
Yeah.
And I think the angle you were sitting at probably showed how much of a good free kick that was. Then Zambrano's goal was also excellent. But Ott scored again. He can't stop scoring. So for Kaya, this was probably the perfect weekend against Visayan rival. Again, we know how heated this match has gotten in the past. So I think Kaya will be so happy with the fact that not only are they still undefeated, they're still yet to concede a goal, and they are perfect on the table. So they've started this PFL season on fire, and what a way to announce that start to the season with this matchup.
That's true. All the goals that day were pretty well, but Janjan Meliza's free kick, absolute thing of beauty. Curls right before the post. One of the joys when you cover a game is when you get to see free kicks that you see time and time again. Players do it perfectly well in the training ground. It's very rare that they get to emulate that onto the game, and Meliza was able to do that. So, of course, kudos to Kaya FC, and for the 3-0 win in that first game. For the second matchup, it was Tuloy versus Stallion. Stallion got the win 2-0 versus Tuloy, but a lot to unpack about that matchup. So, Jing, I'm going to hand that over to you.
It was a weekend of clean sheets, right? So pretty incredible in that all the teams that won did not concede any goals, but Tuloy, in this match, the man of the match was the goalkeeper of Tuloy, of the losing team. It goes to show just how incredible his performance was. But when you're looking at this game, you wouldn't expect that Stallion would struggle so much against Tuloy. It was scoreless at halftime. So for a team that has been on the wrong side of the results, but with the performances that have been impressive, you were thinking, this is a game where you could really get off the mark and build a bit of momentum. And I think Stallion, despite the victory, will be a little bit disappointed that they hadn't, put more past Tuloy. But credit goes to Tuloy as well, that, this is a team now that clearly belongs at this level and really is gonna be a competitive team in the PFL. So I'm very excited about Tuloy being able to keep this scoreline in this way, because in the past, there's no chance that you're going to see Tuloy keep Stallion to just 2 goals. It's a testament to their progress, a testament to their development. So, fantastic result for Stallion that they've finally gotten their win. But yeah, I think it really adds a layer of excitement to the league, seeing results like this.
And just to add to that, of course, as I mentioned when I covered that game, the last time Stallion went against Tuloy, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were winning by 7 goals and 9 goals respectively the last 2 times that they went against them. So for Stallion to only win 2-0 against Tuloy, did Tuloy really lose? Because in the terms of growth and how they're growing in this tournament, you'd say that that's a big win for them to really make sure that the margins of error that they created in the game were to a minimal level. What I worry about Tuloy is, can they sustain this? I'm not sure how deep their bench is as compared to the other teams are, but of course it makes them very exciting to watch moving forward. And I'm sure from that game alone, they've gotten the respect of a lot of fans. And as we said, they're an easy team to root for.
Yeah.
So we hope, of course, them more success as they grow into the league. Let's also take a look at the table standings after, of course, those amazing 5 games over the weekend. All right, so Kaya FC Iloilo still up on top, 4 games played, 4 wins and 12 points.
24-0 as a goal difference is pretty nuts.
And you have Manila Digger also played 4 games, 10 points, Wantagig FC. So up on top, you can see there's a bit of a cushion for Kaya and Manila Digger, 12 points and 10 points respectively. And the next closest is 6 points, 6 points, and 4. So there's going to be a bit of a chase at the moment. And you can see that the top 2 teams throughout the season, last season, are again at the top of the table. Do you have any side comments on that?
This one I'm not so surprised by, but Kaya and Manila Digger, they've come in and they're informed and they're rightly at the top of the table. But what's exciting is that Maharlika is in there. Tuloy is not far. Stallion is in there. I think they deserve that. I think the biggest shock is that Aguilas and Dynamic Herb Cebu seemingly have had a stuttering start to the season, and it seems like they're going to have a lot of work to do in order to bridge that gap. So yeah, interesting how the table is setting up. It's still early days though.
Definitely. It's still early, but let's see, of course, how this continues to shape up. Because at the moment, you can see tuloy in the top 6. Very rare sightings there. And for today's show, we also have a special segment that we have the PFL Team of the Week presented by PFL Bible. So take a look at this.
It's an honor to be featured. Team of the Week, as always, full of tough choices. There are some standouts, though, that I'd just like to highlight. We'll begin with our star man, who this week, Ibrahim Adamu. Unsurprising, really, after his terrific hat-trick, and that celebration was worthy of inclusion alone. He took his goals well, and he's given his manager a lot to think about ahead of what is going to be a very tough fixture against Maharlika this coming weekend. Another Aguilas player, the highly rated Diego Aspiras, was at the heart of every single move that Aguilas made in both defence and attack. He fully merits his inclusion. From Maharlika, we've got Fahmi Ibrahim, who's massively impressed since his move from Stali and Laguna, as well as Enzo Lucindo, who, again, really did feature well on his first start of the season. There's also 2 players, obviously, from the Kaya side that so effectively dismantled Cebu. Kaishu Yamazaki has been incredibly impressive since adapting to a new role as centre-back, and Janja Malitza just simply couldn't be contained down the wing and scored that phenomenal free kick as well. Another player to highlight, Arnold Chamgue in the centre of field, really changed the game for Stallion when he came on just after the half-time break, a goal and an assist for him, as well as the highly impressive Nico McMillan, who was just phenomenal in both defence, nullifying everything Toloi could throw at him. Goalkeeper, I think, was always going to be the toughest call of this weekend, certainly after the heroics of Michael Antilo Jr. But I think after 19 saves against Manila Digger, it just has to go to Milos Čupić. Just a phenomenal performance and stopped the scoreline from looking a lot worse for Wantagig. For Manager of the Week, it came down to 3 choices. Coaches Kim Versales, Yuhoshida and Ernie Nieras eventually just had to give it to Coach Kim just to the pure domination of that Manila Digger side against Wantagig, which I just don't think anyone really expected. The way he set up that team was incredibly well done. The bench is full of some terrific players who had great weeks as well, and perhaps some that even merited inclusion in the starting 11. I'm quite confident with how my first 11 looks, but it's really up for debate, so let's see what changes you guys would make. Thanks.
Give that a round of applause.
Well done.
And that was a face reveal. For other people, I don't think you guys know who that has been behind the PFL Bible page that has worked endlessly giving us that additional insight to all the teams, to all the players, having a team of the week every week, and just making sure that our PFL cups are full. So we just want to give a big shout out to Callum Thompson. Callum, correct me if I'm wrong. He's Scottish Filipino, so I've heard. So thank you so much. What are you guys' thoughts on his PFL Team of the Week?
I think it's fantastic, and yeah, he's been such a gift with the content that he's provided every week. Filonco in the middle. I think I agree pretty much with everything that he's put there, including the substitutes. A worthy 11, in my opinion.
Yeah, he actually messaged me before this and said I was debating on one or 2 additions or subtractions to this team, and I said no, man, I agree 100% because I think he follows all the games, every game. Yeah. He's in the comments, so I know he watches everything. So shout out to you, Mr. PFL Bible, or Callum, if that's how you pronounce your name. So shout out to you, man.
All right, so thank you so much. And don't you just love how Minsan Football Show is upgrading every week? We have these segments being added up. And after this, of course, we also have a very special guest. So maraming pasabog ngayon sa show natin. We have a very special guest for today's show. So everyone, let's give a warm welcome to Paul Tolentino. Come on up here, and we're gonna give you the hot seat.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. So welcome to the show, Paul. Congrats, of course, on Kaya's recent success in the PFL. But we know you're wearing a different hat today, and that's as the president LGPI of La Liga Group, which organizes the PFL. So let's start it out with a few questions since that's what you're here for. How are you feeling?
Okay, I don't know what to expect, but anyway, let's have fun.
All right. So thank you, of course, for joining us on this special episode. So we just want to start off that the clubs now have control over how the league is run. What does that mean for the trajectory of the league?
To clarify, so the Liga Group Pilipinas Incorporated is actually 4 clubs. So that would be Mendiola, Cebu, Stallion, and Kaya. The reason those are the 4 clubs are those were the original 4 clubs in the league since 2019 that are still existing. And that was actually a recommendation made by the previous PFF president to start privatizing the league and separating it out from the federation, who has a lot more responsibilities and projects they have to worry about. What does it mean for the league? We're hoping it creates some stability. We're hoping that we can take simple, easy steps to grow it little by little, but doing it prudently and carefully, essentially. I think with the 4 clubs that have been there for a long time, there's a lot of learnings that we've been through, that we've seen have failed or have succeeded or need to continue or need to improve on, and we're hoping to be able to provide that.
All right. You know, you've mentioned, of course, that the one who suggested this was the former PFF president.
Yes.
So I'm just going to give a shout out to Sir
yes,
Nonong
of course.
Araneta. We love you so much. All right. You got any questions, Jing?
Yeah, well, Jigo, before you jump in, I am just curious how the system works for you guys as
Sure.
The 4 teams, and obviously there are other teams as well. How do they feature and how things are decided for the league?
Sure. So we actually set a meeting. Wow, I'm not entirely certain anymore. Might have been around the month of June or July. I could be wrong, so someone can correct me if they're watching. With all the other existing clubs in the PFL last season. So we invited everyone in. We explained that, look, we've already been incorporated. We've already been working with the federation. Nothing was finalized with the federation until about 3 weeks before kickoff, or a little bit late. But we were given the green light. So we let everybody know that this was the plan and this is the direction. So we didn't want to catch anybody off guard. We also expressed plans in which they can join this group, right? Wherein they have to compete in at least 3 consecutive seasons, showing stability and consistency, get licensed. I don't know if everyone's aware, but there is a PFL license wherein clubs have to adhere to be able to compete in the league. And there's also an AFC license if they have ambitions to play continental football that they have to meet. So, and then there are other things, financial requirements, all of these things. And they have opportunities to then join the group, have a seat at the board, and make decisions. Essentially, right now, it's not yet structured ideally. It's a lot of people helping one another, which is good in a way. We want everyone involved. They nominated me president, so I'm taking that role. But this is also a role that we want to rotate and have other people take on years down the road. I don't know exactly when yet. Everyone's busy. Sir Uber's very busy with his business. Ernie and your dad are very busy. Mark and Ryan are also very busy. We're also quite busy on our end, but it's a responsibility that we've taken to drive it forward. Decisions, basically, it's a vote amongst the people on the board. Majority of the time, it is unanimous. It's very clear. We haven't yet reached a point wherein, it's a deadlock, 4-4. Because the 5th board seat actually right now lies with the General Secretary of the Federation. So if we do have that deadlock, then he makes the call.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can I ask, so you mentioned that stability is one of those goals
Yes.
With this new setup, but what are some of the other short-term and then maybe down the road long-term goals of this current setup for the league?
A good broadcast. No, I mean, we joke about it. I'm not trying to pump anyone up. It was one of the major decisions we had to make early on. We interviewed 3 different groups. We took a chance with Glenn and Jason and their group upstream. very happy. Um, very happy with their commitment and their passion to really drive quality and some new ideas. And I think short term is we just want to provide consistency. Wherein every year, all the football fans know the league's going to start in August. It's going to end in the beginning of December. It's going to break. It's going to restart the end of January. And it's going to end in May. Right? Not this every year, everyone's just waiting. Is it going to start? Is it not going to start? What's it going to be? I mean, format, we don't know if it's always going to be the same, but we're trying this format. It seems to have positive feedback. So
I
leave
love
it
it.
up to you guys.
I love knowing when the games will be and that it's going to be on certain times.
Yes.
And when we can go on vacation, you know? That's also important, balance.
Yes, I think that's a major thing that's often overlooked by people running the leagues is fans do have interest, but when they don't know where the games are, when the games are, I mean, it's hard to support, right? So it's just providing that knowledge and that security that, yes, we're going to be here at these times.
Love that.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. So what really was the main factor? So what made the clubs decide to finally take over the PFL? What was the tipping point?
I think the frustrations of up and down. Like, a new group comes in, they have good ideas, they're pushing it, and then, it's going up, and then they decide they want to pull out, and we start back from scratch, and go back to zero, start again. And us, the clubs, seeing it, it's like, oh man, not to be like know-it-alls, but it's sort of that, guys, we've been down this road, we know this one didn't work, let's not do it again. But you're not fully in charge, so you just kind of have to take the ride and let them lead. And then having this opportunity when the idea was brought up, and then having the backing of the current president as well, who was very supportive with the idea, helped push it through the board of governors of the PFF, or the EXCO, sorry, and get their support as well. They shared their concerns or what might be, and we just had to take the leap basically and make it happen.
Well, so far so good. We've been hearing a lot of, I'm not being biased here, I've heard a lot of good feedback about the season so far. So what else can the fans look forward to? So that the league have plans on to improve on?
The league itself, I think we want to provide a more stable marketplace, I guess, as you want to call it. There are clubs that are clamoring for more opportunities to provide avenues for their sponsors and all of these things. We know all of these are very important for the success and the survival of each of the clubs. So this is something that we have to provide. This probably isn't something specific that will benefit the fans, but I think having the clubs survive will benefit the fans because the league will continue to go with more competitive teams and more teams in general. And I think just a little bit more time is needed. We don't want to expand too fast. We don't want to take giant leaps. We want to keep everything under control before we make some big decisions. Even Jing knows this, like Kaya always wants to play in Iloilo, but realistically, feasibility for clubs to always travel there. This affects Cebu a little bit, so we have to find that balance wherein we're helping them because it costs them the most to always have to travel to Manila to play their matches, which isn't also fair to them. So it's having that proper balance, but making sure that before we make those decisions or before we make those leaps that things are in place and nothing's gonna all of a sudden drop in quality or drop in standard.
Can I just ask?
Go
This
ahead.
is a question that just popped up into my head now. But
Sure.
when deciding, sorry. Well, when the league was being drafted or ideas were being floated, the format, there's a lot of ways to format a league. You can
Yes.
look around the world. There's so many different league formats. What is the rationale for this format? Because it's, by the way, people don't know this, but the PFL didn't invent this format. It's
No.
borrowed from other leagues.
Yes.
But what made you guys decide to borrow this format? Which I also like, by the way. I really like this format. But what was the decision?
I'll give props to former Commissioner Coco Torre. So we had a conversation about this format. When was this? Probably end of 2023, leading into 2024. because he was talking about, then he was like, Paul, let's expand it, let's do this. I go, look, this is your league, like, you know, if you can expand it, expand it. So that beginning of 2024, there were 15 clubs, right? And originally, I think he wanted to go in that format after the 2 rounds, but then costs and all these things, schedules, all of these things made it a little bit more complicated. And the real thought behind it was, because we're gonna expand, there might be clubs early on that are not ready to meet the standard of the top clubs. And I agree with it, wherein it's not fun for clubs to go into games knowing you're gonna win the game or you're gonna lose the game. And then it's just a matter of what's the score gonna be. No disrespect to any club in the league. And we made this clear to everyone as well in that first meeting, wherein, you know, if you really want to push for playing outside, then you're going to have to be pushing to be on the upper echelon. And it's going to be more fun when you're playing clubs of your similar level, week in and week out, on both ends of the spectrum, right? Eventually, if we get there, not anytime soon, but, you know, if there is a second division, that bottom half is going to be just as exciting, because you're going to be fighting off relegation, and then clubs from a second division will come in and take your spot, right? So it might not be as exciting for this season, but I think later on down the road, if this format is still accepted and pushed forward, I think you'll see both ends of it be very marketable for fans and clubs and sponsors.
I just wanted to touch a little bit on the aspect of stability. And obviously that's something that has been lacking over the last decade or so in Philippine football, in club football in particular. Right now, it's such a great lineup of teams and the quality is there, but what guardrails do you guys have in place in case teams overextend themselves, as they have done in the past, where they get a little bit too enthusiastic, feel as if there's going to be financial support that comes in midway through, it never comes or it doesn't materialize, and then we have these tricky situations that happen in the middle of a league. In your opinion, like, what's the best way to mitigate something of that nature? And if it does happen, do you guys make any decisions on like what might be repercussions of that, or?
Straight answer, there aren't many guardrails, to be frank. The best we could do is communicate it ahead of time. What are the expectations? What you have to pay? What you have to be willing to put out? When are the deadlines to meet these? What are the expectations, right? And then if they drop off and don't meet it, or they fold mid-season, there are rules already written in the previous PFL wherein they're going to be banned from re-entering the league, not just the club in its name, but its directors and the people behind it as well. Because it's easy to go ABC club, right? And then mid-season I got bored and I lost my sponsor. I'm going to quit. And then drop out. Affects the league, affects the quality, affects the fans, everything. And then 2 years later, I say, hey, I'm going to call myself Jing FC. Yeah. Right? I'm back in. It's still me, but it's a different name. Yeah. It doesn't make sense, right? Because you already have a track record that creates some questions. Why would we go through that exercise and go through it again? There might be some circumstances wherein it is valid, wherein something really did happen. Those people, it's not set in right now, but those people will probably have to pay an upfront bond or some proof of we have this in place wherein we will finish this whole season, things like that.
Nice.
On the opposite end of that spectrum, I might add, so are there also talks of new clubs that want to join the PFL?
There actually were more clubs that wanted to join. I'm not in charge of that committee. That was Mark Villon of Mendiola, who was the one fielding the different prospective clubs. So they had to be weighed, they had to be vetted a little bit. I think they've been given the information already to proceed with the plan if they want to come in next season. We will have to cap it though. We're not just going to accept everyone that comes in, because financially, if the budget doesn't allow for more, then I think this season we're slated to have about 135 games. Every game costs a certain amount of money to make happen. We can't exceed whatever budget is currently available for the league, which then will create problems down the road, right? But yeah, I think there was a club from Mindoro that was interested, and a club from Dumaguete that was interested. Could be wrong. Mark would be best to answer that, but yeah, I think there were at least 2 or 3 more. Air Force was also invited, but begged off for now.
Could I ask one more question?
Of course.
I just wanted to ask, like, stability is the key thing that you guys are looking for. Any other milestones that you guys are looking to hit this season and maybe the next, or just looking ahead on sort of, we get a gauge of, I guess, your vision.
More fans in the stadium, you know, is one that I was speaking with Jason earlier, is, you know, how can we drive more fans to come to the stadium? We want to know, we want to learn what will get fans to want to come and watch the games live. What do they want to see? What do they want to experience more to make it more enticing for them to come? The venue won't change, unfortunately, for right now. So, you know.
What do you mean? Rizal's great.
Hey, it's been cleaned up. It's, you know, it's a lot more friendly nowadays. But yeah.
The bathrooms are better. I might add.
It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's good.
There you go. Yeah. We want to know. You know, I think that for us is, we want an atmosphere where it is more fun. It is more engaging for people to want to watch the games live.
All right. You know, I'm sure we'll have like a million other questions, but we also want to give a chance to the people in the chat. We've heard we have around 3 questions from the chat. So the first one, so from Kalsef, I don't know if this is the time to ask, but will the classification group in round 3 have a winner or a trophy?
Definitely a winner. What are they making fun of last season?
You mean like a separate?
No, I mean, I think because there's like the top half and then the lower half, right? So I'm guessing, because the top is sure, but the lower. I think that's the question, right? Is that
May plate ba?
Yeah, so like for the lower half, is there
May
like
plate
a trophy or a...
No, we did not think about that, to be honest, and to be frank. No, we were only considering the top portion. The bottom portion was just more of a classification, which I think will lead into the way the technical committee in the PFF competitions department will probably do the schedule for next season, based on the previous ranking.
Just to clarify as well, the points just carry over into the
Yes.
final round. Okay.
Yes, so it doesn't go back to 0 or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's nice to know.
All right, so another question from the chat. It's going to be thoughts on PFL Youth or PFL 2?
PFL Youth is being worked on. I am not in charge of that. That would be Mr. Ernie Nieres and also Mark Villon. They're tandeming on that, but they're also getting a lot of support from the other clubs. Aguilas is very active. Tuloy obviously is very active. I think even Garelli is quite engaged in those discussions. So I think the main target to kick that off right now is dotted for December. They're looking at the age groups. They're probably going to go with 2 age groups for now, maybe 3. That hasn't been finalized. Again, I'm not the one to answer that best, but it is something that we want to do, something we've been passionate about as well, for clubs to be involved. But also, like I said earlier, if they want to join the group of Liga Group, they need to be licensed. To be licensed, you need to have youth clubs, youth academy, and youth teams playing. So all the clubs, including us, need to have our youth teams competing.
Thanks.
I love how also this episode, especially for the ones watching, is you get to look at deeper of what it takes to really run a club. Like not just the first team, but how it works behind the scenes and what it really takes to make everything work. Like the building blocks that make it exactly as a whole, like as a Kaya FC, as Cebu, as Stallion, etc., etc. I guess the one other question that they had there were your thoughts on other venues.
Do the fans have preferred venues? We'd like to listen.
Oh yeah, write it down in the chat. What are your preferred venues or other venues that you think would be good for the PFL?
I think there's a lot of ideas on that front. It's also maybe to drive more fan engagement outside the metro, maybe around. One of the ideas is to work with LGUs around the country, but that would mean probably traveling 4 clubs minimum to at least have 2 matches, right? Maybe even have those 4 clubs play more than 1 game in that province. Work with the LGU if the LGU is willing to support it. You know, do grassroots, do some CSR stuff, and visit those schools, make them aware of the PFL, drive in new fans, things like that. But again, we'll get there step by step.
Yeah. I think there's some suggestions: Cebu, MOA, Iloilo.
I love all of those. I think Natasha has a lot of experience with MOA. I think there's a slight challenge with camera positions, and that needs to be sorted out. Like I said, we don't want to lower the standard of the broadcast just to satisfy a venue. We want to make sure that the quality is of a certain standard. We want this standard to be something that is marketable and sellable even outside the Philippines, wherein companies that are willing to sponsor that are not in the Philippines, will look at the product and say like, hey, this is a good product, something you can be proud of.
You guys have any more additional questions that you want to ask?
I don't have a question. I was just going to say, fantastic to finally see a league with, cool, calm heads looking for steady progress rather than trying to shoot for the moon within the first few months, and I think that's what the league, I think it's listening to what the community wants, and I think as you could see with Paul, he's very open to what people have been wanting to offer in terms of their insights, and I think it's great that we have that in as people who are leading the league, so it's kudos to them, so well done. Yeah.
How about you, Diego? Any last words you'd want to say for Paul?
I got no questions, but to hear that there's a lot more stability being prioritized is exactly what we want. And yeah, my biggest takeaway is that there's a PFL2 in the works, so round of applause.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But yeah, I was also checking out the comments right now. A lot of people celebrated when that was said because really we want to expand football in the Philippines. That's the end goal, and that's gonna help a lot. So kudos to that front being headed by it's being headed by
the group. It's by the group, yes.
So
Correct.
kudos to
I'm just the sacrificial lamb.
And of course, tomorrow, I just want to add this as well because we should give a shout out that Kaya FC will be playing in the AFC Champions League. In the AFC Champions League 2 game against Pohang Steelers.
Yes.
So can you invite everyone, of course, to support Kaya FC as you wear the second hat?
Yeah, no biases here, but no, obviously yes. The team, the staff, they're all in Pohang right now in South Korea. The match, I believe, Manila time will be at 6 p.m. because of the time difference, and I believe it will be online. So whether you're a fan of Kaya or you're a fan of Philippine club football and you just want to see the standard, please tune in and watch.
Okay, and of course, before we let you go, we actually want to ask you our PFL question, our Minsan Football Show question of the day. So as a fan, how do you transfer your excitement of football to your non-football or non-sports friends? This is going to be the easiest questions that you're going to have for today.
I don't know that's so easy, man. It's actually funny you ask that because I think for me it's the opposite. I don't want to always join a conversation and just talk about football because people know what I do. So it's almost like I want to take it away when I get into conversations. I mean, obviously, if people bring it up, I'll be happy to share what I can share. But actually, I go the opposite. I'm a bit careful not to inundate them with everything football. But
balance.
Sorry.
Yes. Of course, there is that balance. The ACL2 games will be live on the PFF Facebook page. So, of course, check on out that page as well tomorrow. So a lot of football to be had, and continue to support Kaya FC in their ACL Champions League 2 appearance. And we also want to thank you, Paul, of course, for coming on the show today, for taking the time to really answer our questions. The transparency this season, wow.
Our perfect first guest. Our
perfect first guest. So we thank you for the transparency, for giving us an insight, the fans, the community, an insight to the league, and we hope that it, of course, gives the fans as well a better idea of what the works are for this season. So thank you so much, Paul, for joining us.
Thank you.
And of course, with that, we would like to and of course, with that, we would like to once again thank our drinks partner, Thirst. To kick off with savings this football season, use the code PFL 2025 on the Thirst app for special discounts. Thirst is the Philippines' only beverage marketplace, so download the Thirst app today. wherever you get your apps. And we are back in our new seats, and we'll segue to the next segment. So this weekend's matchups, we also want to make sure everyone knows that all the games will be live streamed at youtube.com/WeArePFL. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notifications when the games are on. So with that, for the games at hand that are going to be happening this Saturday and Sunday on October 4, there is a change of schedule. October 4 will now just be a doubleheader Saturday, and October 5 will be the triple header. So for Saturday, September 27th, I lost my way of words. October 4, at 3 p.m. It's going to be DB Gareli United versus Cebu. And at 6 p.m. it's going to be Aguilas Yumac FC versus Maharlika FC. Let's start with you, Diego. Your thoughts on the doubleheader for Saturday?
This actually, both games for me are quite interesting. The first one because, again, Cebu lost last week. And Don Bosco Gareli showed a promising performance last week, even though they did lose. So on paper, there might just be a little bit of something here for Don Bosco Gareli to get at. The second game, actually really like the second game because we're gonna see an Aguilas Yumac team who rested their usual starting 11 last week, and they're finally up and running against the Maharlika's team who won last week and who are really making a strong case to finish in that top 6. So I think this is going to be an interesting matchup between two teams that want to finish in the top 6, Aguilas and Maharlika. I actually can't split it. That's how close I think it's going to be. And overall for Saturday, I think this is going to be a really entertaining doubleheader. So I encourage everyone to watch this in the stadium or online.
All right. How about for you, Jing? Your thoughts on the Saturday doubleheader?
Yeah, Cebu have been, how should you say, it's been a stuttering start for them. So a match against Gareli United, you'd think it would be a great opportunity for them to get some points on the board, build a bit of confidence, but at the same time, Don Bosco Gareli United are not the same team. And this is another opportunity for them to put in a shock and put in a performance that would, provide a surprise for a lot of people. Meanwhile, for Aguilas Yumac and Maharlika, for me, this is a big game. Maharlika want to break into the top 6. These are the type of games that they need to compete and compete well in. And Aguilas Yumac FC, there was a lot of hype attached to them going into the league, but so far it's been, you can't really say exactly what to expect from them quite yet, right? So this is a great test of character, a great test of their quality and what they put forward in terms of what we can expect from them moving forward. So I think this is a massive game for both teams, and the winner will send a statement to the rest of the league.
And of course, on Sunday, we're also going to have the triple header Sunday, our first triple header Sunday, this coming October 5. At 3 p.m., it's going to be Stallion versus Mendiola. 5:45 p.m. kickoff, it's going to be Manila Digger taking on Tuloy. And at 8:30 p.m., it's going to be One Taguig versus Philippine Army. Let's start off with the Stallion versus Mendiola. Diego, your thoughts on this matchup between Stallion finally getting their first win, taking on Mendiola, who's had ups and downs so far?
Yeah, Mendiola didn't play last week, so they were the team that got their bye last week. And because of that, their last result was actually that 8-0 loss to Kaya. So you probably know as a former player, it's hard when you have to sit with a result like that for an extra week. You can't redeem yourself right away. You have to train everything, do everything for 2 weeks with that loss in your head. And then for Stallion, finally got their win last week. So that makes them 4 points out of a possible 9, which is not the ideal start, but at least they got up and running. And for Stallion, they're going to be looking at this game as a way for them to start building their momentum. I think their next game after this one is actually One Taguig, so they really need to build momentum. So for this one, on paper, obviously it looks easily in favor of Stallion, but again, Valenzuela, PB Mineral, they're the rested team. So there is a little bit of, they have an extra week of rest, extra week of training without having playing a game. But for this one, you really have to give Stallion, the favorites for this one.
And also, a little bird once told us that a certain Finn McDaniel will be making a return to Stallion Laguna FC.
Parang dito na breaking news na yun.
Dito din yung breaking news. So may face reveal sa PFL Bible, Paul Tolentino on our show, pati yung mga breaking news of players coming back to the PFL.
Minsan football show eh. Iba eh.
All right, and of course, the second game, it's going to be Manila Digger versus Tuloy. Jing, what are your thoughts on that matchup?
Manila Digger have an opportunity to really cement themselves as a team that is going for the title. And these games against Tuloy are going to be much trickier than they were in prior seasons. So you have to be very careful about these types of games because Tuloy is a type of team that could throw a wrench into your title push, right? Tuloy have shown that even though physically they can be dominated, or on paper they look like they should be dominated, they find a way to be crafty. And Manila Digger can't sleep on this game. And because if they do, they could get punished in a big way by Tuloy. So for me, this is about sustaining momentum for Manila Digger. And for Tuloy, this is a game that there's really nothing to lose, right? Nobody expects you to get a point or to do to get much from this match against Manila Digger. So it's a chance to really express yourself, go for it against a team that should provide a lot of challenges for you to solve. So fantastic opportunity for Tuloy to really go for it against this one.
And at 8:30 p.m. for our triple header Sunday, it's One Taguig versus Philippine Army. I mean, on paper, it looks like it's a clash in favor of One Taguig, but of course, football isn't played on paper. Your thoughts on this, Diego?
Again, One Taguig are going to be licking their wounds a little bit because their performance last week was not what we saw in their first two games. I think One Taguig will still be happy with how they started the season because they beat two direct rivals. For Philippine Army, it's going to be an uphill battle. They're going to be the ones behind the ball, not having much possession. But again, if you have a slightly rotated One Taguig team who just lost last week, there might be something on the cards. So you never really know, and you can't really for sure say that this match is going to go one way. Obviously, it is favoring One Taguig, but that's what we love about football. Sometimes there are shocks from places where you wouldn't expect. Maybe this match is one of those. So we'll see on Sunday for our triple header.
All right, so that's how we went down through our coming weekend's matchups. Of course, there's also going to be more football to be had after those games. As we mentioned earlier, tomorrow, Kaya FC are going to make AFC Champions League 2 matchup. They're in Korea at the moment. And what are the other games to look forward to?
So a lot of Filipino football fans will have seen that, I think a few days ago, the national team squad for the Philippines men's senior team has been announced. So that's because we're playing two games against Timor-Leste. So the first game is the away game. I'm not sure what the venue is, but it's the away game on October 9, the Thursday, against Timor-Leste. And then the following Tuesday, October 14, we will play Timor-Leste at home in the new Clark City Stadium. That will be at 7 p.m. And I'm sure the PFF is organizing some form of transpo for fans. But those are the two games for the national team. This is the reason why we don't have a show next week.
Yeah.
But at least we have something to look forward to, despite the fact that there'll be no Minsan football show and no PFL. We have two big games for the Philippines so that we can finally get back into the Asian Cup for the second time in our history.
Huge window for the team. These are the games that you really need to win in order to really give yourself a chance of qualifying. I think the first game is going to be played in the Northern Territory in Australia.
Okay.
So it's going to be quite a travel for them back and forth. But we wish the guys a lot of luck. It's a powerful squad that they've got.
So even though there is no Minsan football show and there's no PFL for the next week, there's not a drop in football games because after the PFL, we also have the men's national team Asian Cup qualifier matches. We also have the FIFA Women's Futsal World Cup coming this November 21 to December 7. Tickets are finally available online. Remember, the Philippines, the women's futsal team, we are playing in the World Cup. So it's going to be Philippines versus Poland on November 21, Friday, 8:30 p.m. Philippines versus Morocco, November 24, Monday at 8:30 p.m. as well. And Argentina versus Philippines, November 27, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. as well. So kahit may trabaho, may oras pa rin. May time pa para sa traffic bago makarating kasi malapit lang naman yung venue. It's all gonna be in Manila, in Pasig. So the all-day passes for the tickets, so whether it's a doubleheader, etc., Category 1, it's going to be 1,399 pesos. So that's for the whole day, all-day passes. Yeah, you can watch as many games as there are available. That's going to be premium seating, assigned seats. For Category 2, it's 699 pesos, open seating. And for Category 3, it's 499 pesos, open seating in the higher sections. So we also want to give a big shout out, of course, to all the fans who hang out in the chat, who watch the show. Leon Silo for the video review of the PFL live streams.
Hey, appreciate it.
You know, we appreciate everything that you guys do and for joining us along as we take on this new show as well, where we try to break down and give you even more insight to the PFL. So games will be at the Rizal Memorial Stadium and streamed on the PFL YouTube channel. We also want to invite everyone to follow our PFL at TikTok_WeArePFL_. And lastly, we also want to invite you to subscribe to Upstream Sports TV for more emerging sports live streams and features. All right, so that's it for my friends at the panel here today, Jing Hamlang and Diego Cordero. And thank you for joining us for the Minsan Football Show, episode number 5. My name is Natasha Alquiros Dato, and catch us once again on the next installment of the Minsan Football Show presented by Upstream Sports TV. Bye guys, have a great day.
Bye-bye.